Hey everybody, John here, Hickory Forge. Welcome back to the workshop. You all know recently I did that 6-hour knife challenge thing, which was really fun. A bunch of other YouTube smiths got together and all did it. And that paired with recently, I got a comment, I forget which video it was on, but they said, nice job with what looks like a pretty minimal setup. Honestly, my setup is anything but minimal. I am a hobbyist, I'm not a professional, but I also have several $1,000s worth of equipment. You know, I got a big 3-burner forge, a big anvil, 2x72 metal chop saw, bandsaw, cutting torch, all that mess. So I got to thinking, that comment paired with having recently done that challenge got me thinking, let's do us another challenge. Let's do a knife, start to finish, with no power tools, just to show how minimally it really can be done. If you're another YouTube smith and you want to get on it, you know, just comment on the video, let me know you're doing it so I can watch the video. The rules are going to be the same as the Peapoddy 1 challenge. Knife blade is 6 to 9 inches. You can use whatever material you want, so on and so forth. Forges are excluded from the no power tools thing, so if you got a coal forge with an electric blower or a gas forge with an electric blower, like a forced air forge, those are allowed. The forge is excluded, but everything else has to be done with hand tools. Also, no squirrel tail tangs. I know the second a lot of you heard no power tools, you're thinking squirrel tail tang. If you don't know what a squirrel tail tang is, that's what this is. You can see it's all metal, no handle work has to be done. The knife has to be either hidden or full tang, so some manner of woodworking or working with other synthetic material has to take place just to make it a little more interesting. So, material I'm going to be using, just bars from 3/16 by 1.5 inch, 1095 high carbon steel. And let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need. So here's what we got. We got assorted rasps and files, you know, single cut file, double cut file, half round file, round file. For drilling the hole, I'm actually probably going to use my post drill over there if you don't have one of those. Use a good old bracing bit, but that's what we got. Let's get started. So, first thing I'm going to do is trim this thing down to the size I want using my cutoff hardy. And I'm going to cut it off at about a 45-degree angle or so to make drawing the point out easier when it comes time to draw the point. That's nowhere near the angle I wanted, but it'll do. Alright, now it's time to forge the point. So I'm just going to start at the top corner, working that back in on itself. It's taking a few heats because the angle I started with wasn't really acute enough, but we're starting to look like something. I'm going for a Bowie style blade. So basically I want an even taper that's going to go all the way from about back here down in a nice straight line, so there's a good bit of work to do. So we're getting there. I'm just trying to refine it at this point. Alright, now it's time to get the tang of this thing forged in, so I'm just going to prop it up over here on the edge of the anvil, right about there should do it. I just do a set down, turn it over and do another set down. And that's the material we'll forge out to make our tang. So, moving along, forging this tang. Like I said, the further you get, the easier it gets because the more it wants to actually move rather than just bend over on you. So I've got the tang pretty much where I want it now. I'm just trying to dress it up. Taking my time. You want it to be both the thickest and the widest up here at the transition. Otherwise the guard's not going to fit well. So it's just making sure your taper's on both sides of where you want them. So now it's time to bevel this thing. I'm going to start right about here. Be careful not to touch this area back here because to fit a guard you do need a good defined ricasso. So I'm just forging these bevels down. Of course the knife is going to curve as you go, so you got to kind of straighten it out. But that's okay because it'll kind of give you a chance to dress up and straighten this edge as well. I'm trying to forge this thing at least 90% of the way to finish. So there's very little file work I'll have to do. So just continuing to work on this bevel. I want it down to about half the thickness of where I would normally take it, just to save time with all the hand work. So I've got the blade forged just about where I want it. Now it's time to start establishing the shoulders where the guard's going to rest. I'm going to use a handled hot cut chisel for this. And then I'll hot rasp it to its final shape just to save time. You could do this with a handheld chisel as well. I just prefer this. And once you're most of the way through with a chisel, you should be able to just grab that little piece you're cutting off with a pair of pliers or tongs and just shear it off of there just like that. And there you go, tang shoulders. Now it's time to do some hot rasping to clean up the tang shoulders as well as the tang itself. So I've got the tang just about where I want it. I can fix the rest of it cold later. What I want to do now is get this ricasso defined a little better. I've actually switched to a less aggressive file because that last one just kind of wanted to grab and push the metal rather than move it. You kind of see what I'm trying to do there. So, got the ricasso where I want it. Now it's just time to smooth out that cutting edge. Make sure it's nice and straight. This hot filing removes material surprisingly fast. Now I just need to take a good sharp half round file and dress up this clip point real good. So I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to give hot rasping this bevel a go. Make sure we're in the vise good. About right there. You'll undoubtedly have to work in sections, but this is definitely faster than doing it cold. So I found that as you get further down the blade, the knife really wants to bend more than file, so it's better to clamp it this way than just by the tang. It makes it a little tougher to see what you're doing, but it definitely saves you time straightening the thing out. So this here might be my $1 million idea. What I've got is a piece of angle iron clamped with my vise and a pair of vise grips. And I can clamp this blade down, and now I can draw file this bevel, which is going to keep the blade straight and give me a much more clean and consistent bevel. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, so if you're watching this and you're going to attempt this challenge, give this a go. Now I'll just run a real good chamfer up here on the clip point. So all I've done now is just take a few heats to normalize it and straighten everything up. But this blade is 80% of the way done. There's very, very little work I have to do cold. I'm still going to go over it with a single cut file just to make sure everything's good and flat and get all the gouges from the double cut file out. But as you can see, the edge is already all the way almost down to preheat treat thickness, which is pretty great. I didn't think I was going to be able to accomplish this much just with the hot rasping. But all I'm going to do now is heat this thing up to critical and let it cool in the forge nice and slow to soften it. And then I'll throw it in a tub of vinegar overnight to get all the scale off to make filing a little easier on me. But there you go. So I've only actually left this thing in the vinegar for about 4 hours. I was going to leave it overnight, but I ran out of stuff to do and got bored. So now I'm down here in the workshop getting started on the draw filing. So all I'm going to do, just got a good sharp single cut file here. Just going to drag it across the whole length of the bevel. This is going to make sure I've got a nice flat consistent bevel, as well as get all the marks from the double cut file out. It's a smart idea to keep a wire brush handy. Keep your file clean because it will load up, as well as some WD-40. So it's slow going, but there's really not that much work to do because I got so much done with the hot rasping. Just keeping at it. This is removing material surprisingly fast, actually. I've only been at this for about 10 minutes, and I've already got a nice, smooth, clean bevel going. So now I'm just working on this tang. There's a little bit of a bulge right here I need to get out, so I'm just going at it with the double cut file. So here we are after draw filing and filing the tang to true. Edges at its nice preheat treat thickness. Well, actually, it's thinner than I would normally go before a heat treat. This is ready to pretty much be sharpened after it's hardened and tempered and everything. So once the steel is hard, there's a lot less work I have to do. Also squared up the shoulders of the tang real good, hopefully to get the guard to fit up real nice. And there you go. Surprising how fast you can actually remove material with a sharp file. That was maybe 30 minutes total of filing. But anyway, next thing we got to do is get the guard for this thing made. So I don't know if this is a good idea or not regarding structural integrity going into the heat treat, but I'm going to go ahead and cut in the secondary bevel. It's going to become the cutting edge, so hopefully once this knife is hard, the less I have to do, the better. So hopefully my reasoning behind this is once it's hard, all I need to do is run it over the coarse and then the fine side of my sharpening stone, and we'll have a good edge. So just got it clamped up on my piece of wood here. And I'm just going to file in what's going to become that cutting edge. So you can see I've got my secondary bevel cut in. I've also draw filed it to get out all the vertical marks because those can act as stress risers during the quench. My theory behind this is that once it's hardened, all I'll need to do is run it over a sharpening stone to get a good edge. You know, I could be horribly wrong, and this could cause it to crack during the quench. I guess we're just going to have to see. So now it's time to start on the guard. I'm using a piece of wrought iron for this because it's softer than mild steel. So all I'm going to do is do a set down with the toe of my hammer on the edge of the anvil to isolate the material I'm going to use. Then I'll put a taper out here. I've gotten roughly the thickness and shape I wanted, and gone ahead and cut it off with a parent bar with a chisel. So now I'm just going to dress up that cut end a little bit, make it nice and even. So now it's time to drill some holes to make a slot for the guard to be fitted to the tang. So I got this the guard chucked up in my post drill with a good sharp 1/8 inch bit. I thought I'd do kind of a close up to kind of show you. I don't know if you can see or not, but you can drill a hole surprisingly quick with this thing. So drilling holes close together on a post drill is a nightmare if you didn't know. I actually broke one of my bits off in there, and then it just kept wanting to slide into the other hole. So what I'm going to do, I got the tangable file chucked up in the vise, and I'm going to use a pipe nipple and kind of just beat it down on there to open up the hole and start drifting it out to be put onto the tang of the knife. So next step, we got a nice slot in our guard, it's nice and centered. We got to hand file it to fit the tang perfectly. As you can see, we're about right there, so we got a good ways to go. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and clean up the edges from the chisel cuts and make it look nice and bring the guard to its final shape. Yeah, it's just file and check. File and check. So here's what we got after burning the tang in. We got the guard fitted up on the knife. As you can see, these two aren't flush, so we got to take our trusty file and remove some material from here until we get a good fit. So, like so many things with this project, it's just file and check. File and check, file and check. We're getting there, but there's still a little bit of a gap. All right, that took quite a while, but as you can see, everything's flush, guard fits nice and snug. So now let's quench this thing. All right, here we go for the quench. Being careful not to harden the tang or ricasso areas. Please God, don't break after all this work. So, quench went really well. She didn't crack, didn't warp. She's glass hard. So now it's time to temper this thing, so I'm just going to clamp the edge up in my vise. As always, vise will act as a heat sink to keep the heat from traveling into the edge, and I'm going to heat the spine, ricasso, and tang all the blue, and then I'll temper the edge to a light straw. So there you go. You got blue on the spine. I actually heated the tang all the way up to black to make sure it's good and soft because I still have to drill through it. But you see we got that nice brown or straw on the edge. So the edge is still good and hard, but the back's good and springy. So that's how I do pretty much all of my tempering. So before the glue up, I'm just doing a little bit of sanding on the bevels just to make them look a little bit nicer. This step's completely optional, but I'm going to do it. So all you do, I got some 120 grit, and I'm just polishing up the areas I want to shine. I'm going to leave kind of the roughness up here on the spine of the knife. I'll probably take this up to 220 grit by hand. You could polish it all the way up to 1,000 and get a mirror finish if you wanted to, but this whole project's mostly a proof of concept, so I'm not doing that. So here we are for the glue up. All I basically did was fill the hole I burned into the walnut with epoxy, and then put the whole thing in a bar clamp so it's all fitted up real nice. I'm going to let that set up, and then we'll get to work shaping the handle. So the epoxy on the handle's set. Now it's time to start shaping out the handle. For the bulk of the work, I'm just going to use my blacksmith's knife here. You know, just going to shave it down a little bit at a time until I get roughly to where I want it, and then I'll true it up with a wood rasp and then sand it. So now it's time to sharpen this thing. So I've got a coarse two-sided sharpening stone chucked up in my vise. It's got a coarse side and a medium side. Then I got a fine stone right here. So just follow your existing edge angle. Apply nice even pressure. I like to switch sides every 10 strokes or so. So there you go. Knife with no power tools challenge. How you like that? The whole reason I wanted to do this was just to show that you can get by with very, very minimal tools. All you need is a heat source, a hammer, some files, and a way to drill a hole. But if you're another YouTube smith and you want to get in on the challenge, just comment on the video. Let me know you're going to do it, just so I can check it out. Honestly, I won't think any less of you if you don't do it, because this was a pretty huge mountain to climb. Well, how you like that? Haven't sharpened a knife on a stone since I was about 15, so glad to see I still got it. But as always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And there's always going to be more cool stuff coming, so stick around.